How's that? Does that match my background? Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make nonsense and we make some sense out of the nonsense. Listen, you should be afraid, very afraid. That's what we're doing there. I want to try something new this week. I don't even know that I can pull it off, and probably not can pull it off because I'm not going to do all of these in order, right? So there's no way I'm going to remember all this. But I want to go backwards this week. I want to work from the end. I want to start at the end, and I want to go back to the beginning, right? So there's an interesting story. It's in Judges. It's the story of Gideon, right? And I want to start at the end result, and I want to go backwards to how we got there. Because I think sometimes in life we need to do that, right? We need to stop and go, let me see the pathway backwards from where I came. We see it forward. I did this, and I got here, right? But sometimes if we look back, we see some really neat things that God did. How did God move me to this moment? You understand that if you start off a day, right, you have the wide open day. You could go anywhere, do anything, be anywhere, be anyone. But by the end of the day, when you end up somewhere, how did you end up there? Did you ever stop and think of that as you're sitting at a restaurant at 7:30 at night and go, how did I get here today? As you're sitting at a small group Bible study, or you're out watching your kids play sports, or you're out taking a walk, or you're doing whatever you do. How did I get here? Did you ever follow back the path? Right? Did you follow back the path and see it? So I want to start in Gideon. With the story of Gideon. There's no book of Gideon, right? But it's in Judges. And I want to start by reading to you verses 19 through 23. It says this: So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the outskirts of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch. And when they had just set watch, they blew the trumpet, smashed the jars that were in their hands. Then the three companies blew the trumpets and broke the jars. They held in their left hands the torches, and in the right hands the trumpets to blow. And they cried out, "A sword for the Lord and Gideon." Every man stood in place around the camp, and the army ran. They cried out, they fled. And when they blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set every man's sword against his comrade and against all the army. Right? So I want you to see. So Gideon is called to be the judge, to be the savior with God's hand upon him, all the Israelites, leading them out of oppression, right? Finally, God hears their oppression, and God's going to do something about it. So he puts his hand on Gideon and says, hey, Gideon, you're the man. The end result is here, right? The end result is that God gives Gideon a great victory, right? So I want you to start at the very end of this with me, right? What happens? God fights for the people. The people didn't have to do the fighting. There's a lot of times where you and I recognize at the end of a day what God has done, and we didn't have to do anything. We simply ended up here, right? We ended up getting blessed. We ended up being saved from our oppression. We ended up doing whatever it is that God wanted us to do, right? But this is what happens to Gideon and his men. They're obedient, right? But the end result is the Midianites, right? They actually literally start turning on each other and fighting each other in the battle. They do all the killing, right? God does that. That's the end result. Now, how in the world did you get to a place where 300 men, right, went against sea sand on the seashore people, right? And they win. How do you get there? How do you get there? Right? That's where we're going. We're like, what was the pathway? Because then it opens up our eyes to see, right, how is it that this God that we work with, he does weird things. And so when we're in the middle of the weird things, right, we should just be focused on the fact that, you know what, God does this, and he says he's going to work out all things for good, right? He's going to take all of these things and he's going to do this. This story is really, really bizarre. But at the end of it, the end result is the Israelites are saved. They're freed from their captiveness, right? They're freed. God does the whole battle. He fights. The men fight. Imagine if you're a warrior and you're sitting there and you're ready for battle, right? And you're like, yes, I got myself all psyched up and I'm ready. And they just start killing each other, right? let me leave you with this thought. Imagine going to a football game and you're ready for your favorite football team to win, right? They're going to just score touchdown after touchdown and the defense is going to play really well. Imagine if you get to the football game and you win because the other team just keeps getting safety after safety after safety after safety. They just keep going backwards and you win with a score of like 8-10, right? 14, 16, whatever it is. You win because the other team did all the scoring. You never scored a touchdown. You never saw your offense score a touchdown, right? Just the other team, right? That's the craziness. Do you know that God says to you and I, sit tight, relax, and maybe you'll see the enemy fight against the enemy. Maybe I'll turn this on. You don't have to do anything. I will take care of it for you. What do you have in your life that you're asking God for, that you need him to fight this battle? You need him to do all this stuff, right? What is it that you need? And again, are you ready to let God do the work and do it his way? Lots of us want stuff from God, but we don't want to do it his way. Chew on that. We'll see you next time. Nightly Nonsense.